started. So you're all here for the webinar today. We have some people from the, well, not people, but Sophie and Samer from the, I'm going to mess this up, the Agent 365 product marketing team. I think I'm missing M in there, but they'll introduce themselves a little bit more in a second. So it's Sophie and Samer. My name is Darian. You know me, it's just a host and moderator of the sessions. I'm going to talk to you for about 5 minutes, just kind of some housekeeping. I'm going to hand things over to Samer to take over.
Excellent. Darian, thank you so much for the intro. And just to confirm, is my screen coming through okay here? Perfect. Thanks for the thumbs up, Sophie. My name is Samer Baruti. I work on the, as Darian mentioned, I work on the Agent 365 team. You know, my primary focus area is really helping our customers drive agent AI adoption and agent adoption through Agent 365. You know, we break out Agent 365 from a value pillar perspective, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the session. But as we talk through those value pillars, the kind of the areas that I focus on is around kind of management controls of agents, or specifically sort of the observability and governance side of things. And with that, I'll just pass it over to you, Sophie, if you would provide a quick intro before we get started.
Yes, thank you, Samer, and thank you, Darian. Great to be here with all of you. My name is Sophika, and I am on Samer's team. So we're on the Agent 365 team, and I own the narrative on security and governance. So really excited to dive this in with you today on this webinar. Samer, please take it away.
Fantastic. Okay, so a little bit of an agenda. We're going to set the stage and talk a bit about kind of the problem space that we're solving for with Agent 365, and then we'll go ahead and talk through those value pillars and walk you through the product experiences that deliver on the Agent 365 value story. So to kick things off, Agent 365 is really built for one primary purpose, is to accelerate AI agent adoption by delivering you know, meaningful and confidence building visibility, control, and protection over a growing and heterogeneous agent fleet. And so to say a little bit more about that, agents are becoming ubiquitous. We're quickly seeing and entering a place where agents are no longer experimental. They're evolving and becoming kind of a foundational layer of how work gets done. We're in the early days, but they really are spreading in a viral way and becoming ubiquitous. In fact, you may have seen this number before. In fact, the figure is about a year old now, but from IDC, the projection is about 1.3 billion commercial or production agents by 2028. We believe that, as it turns out, we're now a year from this sort of prediction that that we're quickly going to surpass that number by 2028, based on the sort of growth trends. So suffice it to say, agents are becoming you know, rapidly expanding and becoming kind of a central part of how we work. And so the big question is your organization ready? Can we track and monitor all agents? Think from an IT and security perspective. Can we track and monitor all these agents? Do we know what they're doing? Do we have the proper guardrails for agents and the people that interact with them? And are agents protected? Do they have the right access? Can they leak sensitive data? So this is sort of tugging at the thread around, from an IT and security perspective, are our organizations, are we in a position to ingest these new, novel, and productive AI agents and AI applications in a way that meets our standards for manageability, visibility, manageability, and protection and security? So to say a little bit more, we'll make this a little bit more concrete, because agent sprawl isn't a single problem. It compounds across 3 distinct surfaces, each with its own sort of risk profile. First, we have SaaS agents, or ISV agents. Employees are discovering and adopting AI agents through the web every day, often without IT ever knowing it. So think shadow IT or shadow AI. Think of this as the next evolution of shadow IT. The questions here are, what agents are employees actually using via the web? what are the risk levels of those agents, and critically, what sensitive information is being shared with them. We have endpoint agents. So we saw over the last several weeks the claw craze. OpenClaw introduced a unique ability for users to deploy agents locally on their devices, and those local agents can use use employees' devices and use those endpoints just like a human user would. Well, that introduces a significant risk if we don't have the proper visibility and ability to block or disallow those agents or block those from operation if they're not sanctioned, if they're sort of unsanctioned or unapproved by IT. And then, of course, we have cloud agents. So what agents are being developed across the various cloud and AI platforms? Like I mentioned earlier, the agent fleet is we recognize as largely a heterogeneous fleet or population. Agents are built across Microsoft tools, whether that's Agent Builder, Copilot Studio, and the list goes on. I should say Foundry, and those agents are also built on partner ecosystem platforms, whether that's AWS, Amazon Bedrock, Salesforce Agentforce, Google Gemini, Enterprise Agent Platform. The list really, Databricks, Genie. So again, wide variety of agent platforms, and so there's a wide variety of agent types, and our aim is to help our customers and the market really at large manage that in a way that is builds confidence and allows us to enable AI agents in a responsible way. So with that, like I mentioned earlier, Agent 365 is now available, serving as the control plane for agents. It is predicated and founded upon 3 value pillars. Those 3 value pillars are namely observe, govern, and secure. When you think about, again, the rapid growth of agents, you have the need around observability. Can you monitor and manage agents in real time? Do you have a clear picture about what agents are in operation in your environment, in your enterprise environment? Secondly, around governance, establishing the right guardrails for agents and users. So beyond visibility, now visibility is sort of foundational, observability is foundational. With that observability, tugs at the question, once we know what our agent population looks like and how it's operating, how do we manage it effectively? How do we set in the right policies to ensure that we have the right levels of access control, ensure that we have that agents are operating in a way that conforms with our policies, our internal policies, and compliance and regulatory compliance standards, and so on. And then finally, secure. So we have to protect agents comprehensively, secure agents, because just as any other asset in your environment, agents need strong protections, from protecting their identities and access to safeguarding data they use when defending them against threats and vulnerabilities. So we talked a little bit about observability. Let's say a little bit more about it, go into some demos, and share a bit more about how Agent 365 is helping to deliver on that promise of value. So starting with observability, this is really the most fundamental set of capabilities in Agent 365 that makes everything else possible. Agents come, as I mentioned earlier, from a variety of sources. Everyone from professional developers with pro code tools to AI savvy knowledge workers who are creating agents, plus users are increasingly adopting agents that are accessible via the web, which makes it easy to lose visibility into existing and unmanaged, or what we call shadow agents. So as I mentioned, they're coming from everywhere. Users are using SaaS agents, users are installing and running agents on their devices, and developers are building and deploying agents in multi-cloud, multi-platform environments. But for most organizations, the core question is still unanswered. What agents exist in my organization and who's using them? So this lack of visibility creates an immediate risk. You can't track usage or understand behavior or see how agents connect across your environment. And so without that foundation, it's impossible to really govern or secure agents at scale. So do you have the visibility into all agents running in your environment, including those built within Microsoft's ecosystem or outside of Microsoft's ecosystem? Can you easily understand what agents are doing, where they're running, and how often they execute? And are you tracking and managing ownerless agents? 29% of employees have turned to unsanctioned AI agents for work tasks. So there's a problem there. I'm going to take this sort of beat to going a little bit out of, I'm going to take this moment. So we set up the problem statement. Let's go ahead and move over to Agent 365. And we'll talk a bit about how Agent 365 helps to address the challenges around observability. So you can see here in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center as the primary surface or the point of entry into Agent 365, starting with the in the Agents tab in the left navigation of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Our first sort of node here is the overview page. Agent 365 overview offers our IT leaders visibility into their agent population. And it sort of surfaces and curates the kind of the most critical top level metrics, like the total fleet size of your agent fleet, the total number of active users in your user population in your organization as they're using and adopting agents, the total number of hours of agent runtime, and your registry sync. And we'll get more into registry sync in a moment. The overview page also provides sort of top actions for IT. Things like pending requests for agents. As users build agents or want to make the agent that they build available to the broader user groups of users or the broader organization, they'll request that those agents are published more broadly. And that has to sort of that control point is the IT leaders and IT teams. Before you make agents broadly available, you'll have the option to view those requested agents and then go ahead and deploy them. And we'll come back to that in a moment. You have agents that are flagged as risky. So we can click in and view those agents and take the right actions to mitigate that risk or block those agents while we further assess those risks. We have agents without owners. So as users who build agents leave the organization, we want to make sure that those agents are, that there is a responsible human looking after our agents all the time. So gives you visibility into those ownerless agents and the actions you can take to quickly reassign those agents to the right person, whether that's the former user's manager or someone else in the organization. And then you have agents with exceptions. So exceptions are, in simple terms for us mere mortals, agents with exceptions refers to agents that are, throwing errors or are not, delivering an optimal experience for the user because they are throwing errors or providing inaccurate or improper information. So we also in the overview page have agent analytics, which is a set of kind of key metrics as sort of the top level metrics that you as an IT leader need to see. Of course, Agent 365 offers drill downs in greater depth in metrics, but this is in the overview page kind of what you're after to start. From the overview page, we can go into our agent registry. Now, agent visibility, we talked about observability. The agent registry is what we'll call the kind of the hero capability in Agent 365. Why is it a hero capability? It's because it provides a central place where all your agents reside, your agents, their metadata, and the governance actions you can start taking upon your agents at the individual agent level. So first in the registry, we have a list view of all of our agents. Again, top level metrics showing us those that we saw in the overview. The total number of agents, the agents at risk, these are clickable thumbnails to quickly filter. We have convenient navigation filters and search to quickly hone in on the agents of interest, whether that's the agent status, the publisher type, the agent platform, again, Microsoft platforms or external platforms, those from ecosystem partners. And then we have agents published we could filter by agent publishing channel, whether that's Copilot, Outlook, Teams, Microsoft 365 apps, SharePoint, and so on. and agent and filtering by data sources. We can also search to hone in on a specific agent, and we can export our agents. We can also add agents here, manage pinned agents, really rich, robust set of capabilities for managing our, viewing our agent population here and navigating our large and growing agent population and managing them. We can click into a specific agent and get detailed visibility into agent metadata, agent details, users, agent data and tools, security insights, permissions, activity. I should actually pick a more suitable agent to view that kind of info. Oops, let's get to, how about the Zava procurement agent. Here in the Zava procurement agent, we can see we have an agent detail view. Agent details showing us the right set of agent metadata to help us inform agent governance actions. So again, we have agent details. We have user access controls. So the Zava procurement agent will have we have the options to make it available to agents. I'm sorry, the options to install the agent for specific users or groups in the organization or the entire organization, and similarly the availability controls such that users can opt to select the Zava procurement agent and then bring it in and install it into their Copilot experience. Again, so we have security details, so we have sort of visibility into the policies that are enabled and in effect for the Zava procurement agent. We have procurement and activity. So kind of a unique point of differentiation for Agent 365 is that we show you the total number of active users, total number of active sessions, exceptions, and agent runtime at the individual agent level, which is highly useful in making agent deployment decisions and kind of quickly gauging the adoption rate and impact that an agent is having on the organization. So we can see, for sake of example, the Java procurement agent over the last month or so has steadily grown in terms of its active usage. The number of sessions over time is quickly growing. And we can also, if your sort of organizational policy permits, we can view our top users, their last activity dates, informing sort of who within the organization are our sort of early adopters or active, most active users for a given agent. Use that information again to kind of we could potentially even reach out to those users, understand what's the value, what's the impact that this agent is having, and then use those sort of usage insights and anecdotal qualitative insights from users to sort of cross-pollinate that value to other users or groups in the organization. And then quickly, we're starting to get into the governance side of things when we talk about the ability to manage agent lifecycle actions here at the agent level. We can assign a new owner to an agent. We can block the agent, update the agent, delete it, pin it for all users, uninstall it, and so on. So with that, we talked a bunch about observability. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the governance value pillar, and then from there I'll pass it over to Sophie to take us home and talk us through security. So when it comes to governance, we talked a bunch about observability. The next question is, how do we sort of establish the right guardrails for agents and users in the organization? So once agents are visible, again, the next challenge is control. Agents span across SaaS, local, cloud environments, and they operate through APIs and MCPs. So governance quickly becomes complex. The challenge is, how do we capture agent activities and stay audit ready and compliant? How do we manage challenges around unethical or risky agent interactions? Do we lack sort of clear visibility into agent actions, or do we have challenges around the inability to retain and investigate agent interactions for compliance? So again, to set up the challenge around governance, can you apply consistent governance policies across all agents, regardless of how they're built and how they run? How do you balance developer freedom and experimentation with centralized oversight and control? And how are you able to identify and retain low value, identify and retire low value or ownerless agents before they create risks or costs to the organization? We touched a little bit on that earlier. 21% of companies report having a mature model for governance of autonomous agents. That leaves 79% of companies feeling that they don't really have the right tools in place to effectively govern agents in their organization. So let's move over back to the demo and talk a bit about agent governance. So we talked about the agent overview page for observability, the registry for observability, and when we get into governance, so the registry provides us with a good sort of segue into governance. We talked about how at the agent level we can review and modify our agent lifecycle actions, whether that's deploying the agent, blocking the agent, pinning the agent to specific users or groups, setting up user access controls, making it available or deployed to certain users or groups within the organization. Now, that's some of the the agent level controls. If we go back to our overview page, I mentioned earlier how we can quickly identify. Let's see. Let me do this actually. Let me go to our Agent 365 settings. To share some of the key governance tools. Specifically, we've introduced the construct of policy templates. So when we think about a large and growing agent population, the challenge becomes, how do we govern our agents at scale? It's great that we can block and allow agents at the individual level, but how do we do that in a scalable and manageable way? So there's two key things I want to touch on here. One is the construct of policy templates, which allows us to create preset policies that pull together policies across multiple product areas from Microsoft, namely areas like Entra, Purview, Defender, and SharePoint. And we can pull together a set of policies across multiple product areas and define those as a policy template. And so when that time comes that a user requests an agent for broader publication in the organization, they built that agent, they want to make it available more broadly across the organization. That's where the handoff comes to your AI administrators or IT admins. And you can apply, rather than sort of building bespoke policies for that agent, you can say, okay, this agent is categorically let's say an HR agent, and we've built a policy template that's suitable and suited for and built specifically for this type of agent, these HR agents. And we can go ahead and apply that policy template. Or again, as we're showing here, a default agent template for all agents in the organization. Now, if we go over to the overview page, we can see sort of the workflow that enables that. We have a user who has requested an agent. Let's say that's the staffing agent. They want to deploy that out to all users in the organization. We'll go ahead and review. I'm sorry, let me back up here. We'll go ahead and review that agent, the agent metadata, the data and tools that this agent has access to, its capabilities, the knowledge sources, the resources that the agent is grounded upon, the tools that the agent has access to, the tools, the MCP servers that the agent has access to. We can get a good sense for what are the sort of the capabilities and data access that this agent has. Make our sort of informed decision about whether or not we want to publish the staffing agent. And once we've reviewed it, we'll make the decision to go ahead and publish the staffing agent out to, let's say, all users in the organization. No, let's actually make it available to users in the HR department. Well, we don't have a group for that in this demo instance, so let's go ahead, for sake of example, publish it to all users in the organization. And we'll have it set it so that it's pre-installed to all users in the organization. We'll go ahead and apply the policy template that we've created. Let's call it the AI agent policy template. And we can see here we have the access package that this agent needs. We have conditional access set up to block high-risk agents. We can enable this policy template and go ahead and review the details of the policy template, hit next, review the permissions for this agent, next, and publish. And we've published the staffing agent to all users in the organization. So again, this is just to say we've streamlined the process of building out policy templates, making that policy template quickly assignable to all users in the organization. Now, the other quick topic on scaling agent governance through the tools in Agent 365 is the construct around agent management rules. So think of agent management rules as sort of an if this then that style interface that allows you to set a condition or set of conditions and in turn take an action against that agent. We're continuing to invest in this area. As it stands right now, we have a set of 3 out-of-the-box rules that says, okay, reassign ownerless agents created with Agent Builder to the manager. So if the example scenario here is if a user built an agent using Agent Builder, that agent is published out to all users in the organization. That user then in turn leaves the organization. We want to automate the process of assigning any agent that meets that condition to that agent builder or previous owner's manager. So we'll go ahead and run this rule, and then in turn, we've successfully executed that rule. Now all the agents that were previously ownerless were reassigned to their manager. So again, scaling agent management through agent management rules. Lastly, we'll talk briefly about MCP and tools management. So tools management within Agent 365 gives you a centralized view of all of the MCP servers or tools within your organization, and you can manage agent access to these tools tenant-wide. We can select a given MCP server, view the MCP server descriptions, its URL, and then take the right tenant-wide action to block or allow that MCP. Starting with first-party, or what we'll call Microsoft-built MCP servers, we're continuing to invest in this area to enable ecosystem tools to sort of submit for approval and enable those, to enable all agent builders within our organizations to use those tools with their agents in a sort of responsible and manageable way. With that, I want to swing back to our demonstration. We covered the demo for observability and governance, and with that, I want to pass it over to you, Sophie, to share a bit on our third value pillar in Agent 365 for security.
Thank you, Samer. And there is a lot of questions and excitement in the chat. So, Samer, I will pass those questions to you as I cover the security pillar for Agent 365. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen okay. Perfect. Great. All right. Thank you, Samer, for covering and walking us through the demo for the observability and governance pillar, which are so crucial. If you don't know or if you can't see, then you can't govern or secure. So the third capability is the heart of Agent 365, which is security. And just like Samer mentioned, because agents are ubiquitous, they do exponentially expand surface areas that must be protected. So without proper security, these agents can become a new pathway for data exposure, data misuse, or unintended behavior. So often without these obvious signs until damage has already been done. So because agents are also behaving more like users, but structurally are more like applications, the security model that we must have for agents must also account for these unique characteristics of agents. So the agent era obviously now introduces a new layer of interaction and risk. So users can now create their own agents, adopt SaaS-based agents, or deploy agents directly on endpoints. So there are now rapidly increasing agent sprawl across the enterprise. So while the classic protections still matter, right, securing those human-to-agent prompts and agents to human responses, they're not enough on their own. So we're now facing expanded threat landscape with these two dimensions of security challenges. So the first one is increased interaction points across agent to agent, agent to tool, and agent to app communications, requiring expanded monitoring. And then the second one is a broader threat categories beyond data oversharing and leakage, including identity and privilege abuse, tool misuse and exploitation, and insecure inter-agent communication. So Agent 365 is exactly built to address this shift, so helping you to observe, govern, and secure agents at scale. So let's now break down what that is and what kind of questions we're looking to answer here. So thinking about protecting agents comprehensively, these are some of the questions that you might want to ask yourself or your organization. So we've heard that 73% of organizations say that data privacy and security is the biggest AI risk. So, what access policy do you enforce or block? What guardrails do you have in place to prevent agents accidentally oversharing sensitive data? And do you have a mechanism in place to detect and respond to new AI threats, such as tool misuse? So with these questions in mind, I will be walking through 3 demos from a security admin perspective. So Samar walked through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center from an IT and AI admin perspective on how you observe and govern those agents. I will be walking through the demos as a security admin, as an Entra identity admin, as a Defender security admin, and as a Purview data security admin. But first, I do want to call this out. There was a question earlier about this, about shadow AI, shadow agents. So with Agent 365, we just announced that Intune will be able to enable the discovery of OpenClaw agents on Windows managed devices. And then in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, under the new shadow AI page, you can now use Intune policy to also block common ways that OpenClaw runs. All right, with that, I am going to switch to our demo. So first demo we are going to take a look at is the demo from our Entra admin, Lydia. So Samar just showed you from the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, when you have a new agent, you as an IT or AI admin can approve that and assign the right access packages. So now we're going to walk through what it looks like for an Entra identity admin on creating those access packages for agent onboarding. All right, so now I am in the Microsoft Entra portal. There is a tab here on the left called Entitle Management. I'm going to click on that, and this is where I will see access packages under Entitle Management to create those access packages. So here I can see all of the access packages that already exist today, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new access package. So I click on that, and this is where you can type in the access package name and description and the catalog that it belongs to. So this one, we're creating an agent permission for DevOps teams. I can then assign resource roles and API permissions. So for this one, I'm going to select Microsoft Graph, and I'm going to type, and I'm looking for Teams activity.send. So that this permission defines exactly what this agent is allowed to do in Teams. So I'm going to select that and update the permission for my agent. Now I'm going to go to the Request tab. This is where you can choose all agents and who can request access for this agent. So self or agent sponsor or owner. In the Lifecycle tab, this is where you can specify access assignment must be renewed within not 365 days, but we can update that to 7 days. And now we can review all the information about this access package and go ahead and create it. So now this access package has been created. I can go back to entitle management under access package and see that this agent permission for DevOps team has been created in the Entra portal. And this is the access package that Samer has just demonstrated that you can now select in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center to choose when you onboard those agents. So this is now where you can have consistent governance at the moment agent enter the environment. So you have that shared visibility, consistent protection, and scoped access. So no matter where that agent was built, you can assign the standardized and pre-created access packages for your agents. All right. So now let's take a look at Kaji, who is the Java data security admin. So data oversharing and data leak is always a top concern for many of our admins and organizations. So how can we understand the data security and compliance landscape now for agents? So here I am in the Microsoft Purview portal. I am in the solution called DSPM, which stands for Data Security Posture Management. So as a data security admin, Microsoft Purview is the solution where I can see what agents are doing, protect what matters to secure the sensitive data, and to also stay compliant, having retention, auditing, e-discovery extending to all agents. So there is a new tab or feature within DSPM called AI Observability. So this is where you can see a list of all agents in your org, the same list that you saw in Microsoft 365 Admin Center, with more context and details on what access these agents have to sensitive data. So this enables you to decide on the right data security and compliance guardrails and policies to enforce them for this agent. So you can see that all of the agents are labeled with a risk level from high, medium to low. So on the top of this list, what you can see here is the Java supplier agent has a high risk level. So you can go ahead and click on that. And clicking into this risk level, you can see that we're looking at the alerts for this agent. So you can see the sequence of events. So this Java supplier agent, instead of accessing PO data, purchase order data, also started to access contract data, which is a highly confidential information it shouldn't have access to. In addition to this access, it tried to exfiltrate the data outside of the organization, an action that was stopped by a data loss prevention policy. And finally, there is an unethical activity performed with the agent being asked to draft a persuasive gift message. So all of this will increase the risk level of the agent. So the data security admin now has full detail to see those details to tune and ensure the agent can set the right permission so it doesn't access contracts, which is not intended to do these jobs. All right, so let's now see how these activities connect to each other from the agent. So here I'm back in the DSPM Activity Explorer under Discover. So this is where you can get more detailed context on the behavior of this agent. So I can see there's the Java supplier agent and it attempted external oversharing, which matched a DLP policy that blocked it. So I can click on that. And this is where we can see information about this this DLP match. So this DLP policy blocked a message. And even if the action wasn't blocked, this view also surfaces policy alignment and potential data risk across agent prompts, responses, or tool access so that the security team can validate coverage and spot gaps. So let's close that. And now let's take a look at this unethical activity. So once you open that, the side panel will show up to show you more about this potential risky behavior. So to learn more details about this unethical interaction, you can now go into Purview Communication Compliance and look at the policy that triggered this match. So here in communication compliance, you can see that it's flagging this unethical interaction. You don't have to watch all the interactions, but if an agent tries to break a rule that matches a classifier that you set in communication compliance, it will notify the admin. So you can see that this agent has been instructed to draft a persuasive email to the procurement lead. And so here you can view the matches that are detected to notify, escalate, or resolve the information. All right, so I can click here and you can see there are matches in other sources as well. So prompts and responses are evaluated against existing communication compliance policy and classifiers. And any matches are surfaced to review or is using the same investigation remediation workflow. So now we're going to look and go into Purview audit. So Purview audit logs and captures every action. And that's what powers communication compliance. It powers data lifecycle management, as well as all the AI observability in DSPM Activity Explorer. So every action is logged. So I can go ahead and click on that and see the full audit log of the interaction that happened. So AI agents are moving fast, and without the right guardrails, they can easily overshare or access data they shouldn't. So Purview, as a solution, keeps your AI agent in the lane. They spot trouble before it happens and make sure every move is on the record. And that's the role Purview plays as part of Agent 365. It's protecting your data while AI moves your business forward. All right, the last demo that I would like to show is on the defender side and how we defend against AI threats and vulnerabilities. So Isaac here is our SecOps analyst. And Defender is the portal that he goes to for threat protection, including posture management and investigations. So here I'm in the Defender portal, and this is the customer billing agent that we flagged because it is showing a critical severity in terms of security. So there are also lower priority or informational, which is all tagged here for you. But I see here there is a collection incident involving one user that is labeled as critical. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And in this incident pane, you can see that it has been identified as a collection incident. It also includes enriched information that the SOC team needs. So you can quickly review the incident description and open the incident page to investigate further. So clicking into the incident page, this is now a detailed explanation of what happened, who was involved, and additional context. You can see that the alerts are related to an agent, are combined into a detailed incident, including persistent jailbreak attempts on a Copilot Studio agent and an AI agent tool invocation by the same user that was blocked by Defender. The alert also provides recommended action to remediate this alert. So you can scroll through the incident details on the bottom and see all related events where Gryffindor tried to invoke the same email tool multiple times within a short period of time. So if we wanted to, we can now investigate the user further. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the user and click on user details. And because this user is now compromised, I can now confirm that the user is compromised. So now Zava, which is the tenant, conditional access policy will now revoke Gryffindor's access and require a password reset. Now we can, this will now show him as compromised user. And now we can now head over to the compromised status. I don't want to stop here because I want to prevent future incidents in my organization. So I now can go into AI agent detail and go hunt with advanced hunting in Defender to get deeper context on this agent and what happened. So you can run a query to get most up-to-date information. So you can see now detailed attributes such as the agent's name and creation date, who last modified it and when. It also shows its action triggers, what actually caused it to run, and any connected or child agent that it interacted with. So this is good news, but as an investigator, I want to know what else this agent can do and how risky that might be. So you can head over to community queries. And this is by opening agent tool details, you can now immediately see that in addition to sending emails, this agent has also access to an MCP server. So you have these rich set of pre-built queries designed specifically for AI in Defender and making it easy for you to spot misconfiguration. So this specific template gives you the view into agents with MCP tools configured using maker credentials. So with these permissions, the MCP tool can operate as the maker, potentially leading to privilege escalation and exposure. So with all of this info you can go ahead and make a request to the builder of the agent to configure the MCP permissions to enhance the security posture. So with Defender, teams can now work together to continuously strengthen their agent security posture and protect against threats. So in this demo with Defender, what you're seeing is that IT and security operation teams can now work together to proactively identify and mitigate violations before an attack occurs to significantly reduce risks and prevent future incidents. So that is all the demos that we have for Purview, for Entra, and for Defender. So looking at the security narrative and this as a security admin, how you can use the features in Agent 365 to help create onboarding policies that the IT admin can use, how to detect and help set up guardrails for data loss and data oversharing, and how to defend against AI threats and vulnerabilities. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Samer, to close our session and wrap up.
Thank you, Sophie. Fantastic. What a fantastic overview of a security pillar, the security pillar from Agent 365. Really appreciate that, Sophie. As we get out of here as we get to closing things out and get on our way, there's a few notes that I just want to leave this group with. Is one, first, as you're seeing on screen here, the Agent 365 ecosystem, we've covered some of the key capabilities for Agent 365. And so just want to quickly touch on what makes our approach really unique. The first kind of principle in building Agent 365 is an open ecosystem. Agent 365 is not just for agents that were built and that are built on Microsoft AI builder platforms like Copilot Studio and Foundry. It's from the start, Agent 365 was designed to work with really any agent, and we've already come to help and facilitate a broad ecosystem of partners and platforms and agent builders that are connecting through the Agent 365 ecosystem. So it's more than just a set of Microsoft tools. It's really a full ecosystem of ISVs and AI platforms and enterprise SaaS providers coming together to enable agents to work securely and effectively across the organization. So highly encourage folks who are building agents, whether that's on Microsoft platforms or, more importantly, third-party or partner ecosystem platforms, ecosystem partner platforms is the Agent 365 SDK. And so take a closer look there. Now, if you take nothing else away from this session, the thing to keep in mind is that the best way to manage agents is to extend the infrastructure that you already have and already use for managing users. And so we believe this is kind of the fastest path to getting agents under control is managing them similar to the way you manage users in your organization. And so with Agent 365, you extend existing infrastructure and protections from people to agents and integrate agent management into existing workflows that with familiar Microsoft solutions and tools across a distributed control plane. So the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, as you saw today, is your primary sort of destination or point of entry into agent observability and some of the governance capabilities. And you saw, Microsoft Defender and Entra and Intune and Purview. So we're really investing and continuing to invest in these product areas and services in extending those kind of products and tools and capabilities that IT admins, AI admins, and security admins use, and extending those capabilities to these new entities we call agents. And so we're really thrilled at the prospect of enabling and empowering IT and security leaders to derive value and from AI agents, and doing so in a way that's really responsible. With that, I'll say a few of the sort of the business outcomes of Agent 365 adoption is faster path to organization-wide agent deployment, streamlined integration of agents into high-impact business processes, reduction of risks associated with AI adoption, misconfiguration, user error, security gaps, or reducing those risks or potential vulnerabilities associated with AI, unsanctioned AI usage, or shadow AI, as we call it, scaling and scale and confidence in your AI transformation. As a final note, Agent 365 is available as part of the new Microsoft 365 E7 suite. So Microsoft 365 E7, or we have to call it ME7, is the productivity suite for a human-led, agent-operated enterprise, turning human intent into action with AI that runs securely and at scale. So ME7, Microsoft 365 E7, brings together Copilot, agents, and built-in governance via Agent 365, so organizations can operationalize AI safely and at scale. A few actions that we'd offer as we part here. Get started with Agent 365 via the Microsoft 365 Admin Center by going to admin.microsoft.com or admin.cloud.microsoft. If you want the new way of getting there, you'll be redirected there anyway. But in any case, admin.cloud.microsoft. If you're already enrolled in the Frontier program, click Try Now on the agent overview page and accept the terms, and you're off to the races. If you're not already in the Frontier program, select Copilot settings. Under user access, select Copilot Frontier and choose the groups to grant access. Learn more about Agent 365 via the Agent 365 overview here, Agent 365 documentation, and the Agent 365 blog. So with that, I'll say thank you and appreciate the time, everyone.